Every contractor I talk to says the same thing. A virtual assistant can never work for my construction business. Today, I'm going to prove you wrong. I have a real virtual assistant joining me today that my team at Virtual Construction Assistants has helped place with a client here in the United States. No theory, no pitch, just real results. Hi, my name is Joel Lipsky. I'm a construction business owner, advocate, and educator. I spent the last 20 years in this industry on the job site and in the trenches, building companies, leading teams, and learning lessons the hard way. Today is different. Today, I'm not going to be doing the talking. Today, you're going to hear it straight from someone who's actually doing the work, a real virtual assistant working for a real client here in the United States. So let's get into it. So here with me today is a virtual assistant named Arnie. Arnie, I want you to tell everyone who's watching who you are, where you're from, and how did you end up working in construction?
Hi everyone, it is Arnie. I'm from the Philippines. I graduated at the college with a degree on architecture. I specialize on architectural drafting and BIM modeling, doing design concepts, and doing an accurate and buildable solution for clients.
So Arnie, when you're in university and you're studying architecture and engineering, is the design based on the United States or do you guys have your own separate design?
No, it doesn't have a difference. It's actually very much similar when we're designing on the Philippines or on a American building code.
Okay. So it sounds like, you're learning in English, you're going to university and all the textbooks are in English. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's true. It's in
Okay.
English.
And then a lot of the standards are based off of the United States standards, sounds like.
A lot of codes, building codes, fire codes. When it comes to the sanitary codes, it's much similar.
So that makes it really easy when you're talking to a client. Like there are probably a few differences, but most of the standards are easy for you guys to understand because you've learned all this in university.
Yes, when you transition from the building codes in the Philippines to the United States, it doesn't differ that much when it comes to the standards and then the qualities. I think the only difference is that you used English metrics.
English to yes, yeah, like feet and
Yeah,
inches versus meters, for
the
example.
kilometers and meters. Yeah.
Correct.
But
Yes.
basically, everything is similar.
That's great. And before joining virtual construction assistants, how did you get into construction? Like, how did you end up in the role before you actually joined the client here in the United States?
Before, I was actually on a virtual assistant role as well, but on an Australian side. And since the schedule sometimes doesn't work for me, I had to change the job, looking for a better schedule for me that works well with my work ethics and then my working schedule.
You joined a
Yeah.
US client to help accommodate your scheduling a little bit easier because the client that you were working with in Australia, it wasn't a good fit for you, is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Basically, that's
Okay. And just to back up here, and it's really interesting that not just clients in the United States use virtual assistants, but also Australia. After you graduated with your degree in construction, what were you doing before you became a virtual assistant? Were you on the job site at any point? Were you doing drafting in the office, for example?
Yes, I am actually for joining a virtual assistant job. I had to basically commute myself to the job site. What I do is review drafting drawings, physically, of course. And I also do the technical drawings on the side. And then I also do the building permits that needed to be submitted to the municipal or the local government.
So you have lots of experience on a construction job site and you have lots of experience reviewing drawings and essentially all the paperwork that's involved with a construction project. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting. And then it sounds like at some point the commute and the traffic and how much time that you were spending commuting is what drove you to look for a remote position as opposed to a position that was on the job site.
That's true because actually having myself wake up very early in the morning and then I have to commute to my workplace, that would take a lot of hours if I may compute that It takes a longer hours for me to get up and then get ready. It's just like a continuous cycle. So it became
It's
exhausting
exhausting.
as well.
It's
Yeah.
exhausting, yeah. I used to do it when I worked in the city, New York City. I would commute 2 hours each way, so that's 4 hours
Mm-hmm.
a day, and so essentially, it sounds like you had something similar, and then when you work remote, you were able to get those hours back into your life to do other things.
Yeah, that's true.
That's great.
And sometimes it's very easier for me to have my schedule balanced when I'm working from home.
That's great. And we love to make sure that the virtual assistants that we place have a balance in their life, and that's some of the things that we look for. So, without saying the company name that you work for, why don't you tell us where the company is and what the company does in the United States?
So I work as architect, 3D drafter, and then a modeler for a US client on Mississippi.
So the client's company is in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm,
And
yeah.
I know this client in particular, actually, and they have a very hard time finding people to help them, in their day to day. So they hired a virtual assistant like yourself to help with, sounds like the drafting and the drawing reviews. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I usually translate to the 2D drawings to 3D modeling so that it becomes accurate when it comes to forming a 3D model from the 2D drawing base.
That's great. So what's like a typical day? Like, you wake up, obviously you go through your daily routine of getting ready, from logging in to work. Tell me what a typical day working for the client looks like.
Every day, of course, I check my emails if there is needed to be updated or revised when it comes to drawings. And I also check log into my Teams account. There, I would check whether the messages from the client, it would say what my task normally is from updating the drawings. And then after revising those, we get to brainstorm on what it could be much more greater design when it comes to the 3D models that I build or that I make.
I'm hearing a lot of design work,
Yes, a lot of design
and
work.
you're coordinating a lot with the client, your supervisor, essentially. You're coordinating a lot with him specifically. At any point, are you coordinating with like subcontractors or architects or engineers?
No, not
Okay. Are you
really.
emailing the architect, for example?
Since I was hired as an architect, so I do the design itself and then I do
Okay.
the 3D modeling.
Okay. So you're essentially doing part of the design and looking for clash detection, and you're making sure that the design is efficient, right? You're looking for efficiency in the design. Okay. That's really interesting. And I'm assuming that you're doing more than one project at a time.
Yes, because not all projects are finalized. There's eventually a lot of projects that comes and go, but everything has to be recorded. You have to have a backup of that project because you never know when we will get back to it again.
Yes. So you're filing all of the draft revision one, revision two. You're
Yes,
keeping
that's
track of
true.
those.
Hmm.
So you're not
Yeah.
just, so it sounds like you're not just a virtual assistant that's responding to emails. You're a virtual assistant that is actually involved in the project design itself.
Yes, that's basically it.
All right, so let's switch gears. So now that we know what you do, you have a client in Mississippi, you're involved in the
Hmm.
design, involved in clash detection, efficiency of that design, you're involved in documentation and record retention of that design process. Let's switch gears on how you're communicating with your supervisor, because this is where I hear most people push back. A lot of people, contractors say, how is someone remotely going to communicate with my team? So break it down for us. How are you communicating with your supervisor every day?
It's either through Teams or emails. So I get to have updates from emails and from team chats as well.
Okay, perfect. So you're using Microsoft Teams, you're using
Mm-hmm.
email,
Yeah.
Outlook, and that's how you're talking to your supervisor on a daily basis.
Yes.
Okay.
We also have like the meeting on a team chats. We schedule meetings
Teams
on,
meetings.
yeah, Teams meetings. Yeah, we
Okay.
schedule those.
So do you think that communication's a important part of being a virtual assistant?
True, it's very important because you'll never know what you need to be done if you don't communicate well.
Yes, I think that you could be the smartest person, the smartest engineer, the smartest architect, but if you are failing at communicating, it's just simply not going to work.
Yeah. You won't even know what the client wants if you don't communicate well.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point. So, working with the team, because hiring someone, virtual or not, does not automatically make you efficient. How do you make sure that you're actually moving the needle? How are you actually providing value to your client?
I just focus on what needs to be done. What I wanted to have is the clarity on the drawings, how the clients would respond on the certain drawings that I did. So you just have to make them happy on the result itself.
That's how it should work. Like you need to provide value, and you have to make sure that your supervisor or your client is not always asking you for updates. You need to be providing the updates to your client.
Although this task it's already done, you have to go over so that they'll be happy if you completed the task on an accurate and a clarity basis. And if you go beyond what you work, and then they'd be happy with the result that you provided with them.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you're doing this with video, not just email, but you're actually doing Teams meetings where you're going through and checking the work.
Yes, I also send screenshots, the drawings of the 3D models on the updates that I did. And then I chat to my clients like, hey, I already did this part. What's your opinion about this? So you go beyond what was asked from you. When you see things that are much better, and then you go beyond your opinion and then say, hey, I think this would work best and this would work better. When you do it that way, it's like engaging them on the job or the task that they give to you. But also it makes them like happy because you show that you care for the work as well and for the project that they gave you as well.
That's a great response. And I agree with everything that you said. I mean, you have to show that you care and you have to show that you add value always. Not just a virtual remote position. That's even people in my construction company. If you're not providing updates, if you're not communicating, if you're not providing value, I don't want to work with you, period. So all those things are like really,
Mm,
really important when you look for staff, virtual or in the office. All right.
mhm.
So in general, there's virtual assistants that do a variety of different things, right? You are, for
Yeah.
example, you do the drafting and
That's true.
design. You have others that are assistant project managers. You have others that are bookkeeping assistants.
Mhm.
Um, what do you have to say to the clients out there who think that virtual assistants will not help them? So these are people that are skeptical or are resistant to bringing in a virtual person into their organization. What are some of the things that you would want to say to those people?
Well, they just basically have to try it so that they could experience it as well. So I know there's a lot of virtual assistant that doesn't take the job seriously. So a lot of clients as well are skeptical to them. But I think finding a good outsource company would really help them a lot.
And I'll add to that a lot of contractors think that they need someone present in their office to get things done. But the reality is that you just need someone that can communicate, that can add value, that is going to be a benefit to your company. And that doesn't have to be someone that's in the office.
That's true. Working ethics is a really good part on a virtual assistant because if you really love having your work or like you're working, whether you're physically there or you're just as a virtual assistant, you could really have the job done.
Yes, I agree. So let's talk about results without getting into anything confidential. What has changed for you and your client since you came on board? Like how have you improved their life every day versus what their life was before they met you?
I could say that there's this trust because if there are certain projects that needed to be done, they just have to communicate it with me and then they don't micromanage. I just show them the results that I did. And that's it. That's an okay side. That's a good one. They show that that's a job well done on my part as well. So I could say that they're happy with my work and they're happy that I'm on board with them.
And I think also they're happy because otherwise they would be doing it, right? If they didn't have you, Like they would essentially have to work more hours to do what they're doing today, plus what you're doing for them, right?
That's true. Because sometimes my client also asked me to study a certain software that I don't really use. But since I love working with them, I go beyond what is my capacity and then I study those software just to accommodate them.
That's great. And I think that's the whole point with virtual construction assistants. We're not here to replace anyone. We're
Mhm.
not here to cut corners. What we're trying to do is give time back to our clients, right? And by having remote people like you, it actually gives those clients 10 hours extra a week, 20 hours extra a week, sometimes even more than that.
That's true. Since the time zone is different, if I finish it in the morning and I submit it then, when they wake up, it's already there. So it's very much
Gotcha.
easy.
That's great. Has there been a moment working with the client that you felt like you really made an impact? Was there like a job or one big conflict that you knew you added a lot of value in? Do you want to tell us one story about a situation like this?
So when I first started working with a client, of course, they won't know how I do my work or what my working ethics would be, and then how I finish the work. So I finished the work within 1 or 2 weeks. They think that it would take a month, but I had it done by 1 or 2 weeks. And it's a huge project because it's not just a house or just a building, whole like community on a in the industrial part or the industrial facility. So I had it done within 2 weeks. And then when I submitted the 3D model itself, they are very shocked because I had it done with 2 weeks and I had it done perfectly the way they wanted it.
That's a great story. That actually makes me so happy as the owner of virtual construction assistants to know that those wins and victories are being done by the remote team that we give our clients. So I think that's a great story. And I think thinking about it, like if they were to do it, you have to think the CEO, he's paying the bills, he's running the office, he's doing payroll. So I think a lot of times we think if I was to do that rendering, it would take me a month, but since we have these remote virtual assistants that are close the door, just working on one single thing, which is this big rendering of industrial thing, how much time it could get done, how efficient it can get done in a such shorter amount of time because they don't have any other distractions in their life. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually saves them time.
Saves them a lot of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Arnie, even though we have a lot of similarities between the Philippines and the United States,
Mm-hmm.
every client likes to see things just a little bit different. I'm a general contractor in New York, and you're working for a general contractor in Mississippi. I'm sure that I like to see things a little bit differently than how they do things in Mississippi. So, how important is the training that you get when you first start working with a client?
Yeah, it would basically be your foundation. You don't regress when you have foundation. So when you do trainings, you build foundations, you progress with them, and then it gives you successful relationship with your client.
And trust. We talked about trust before.
Yes, that's
Now
it. Yeah.
they can start trusting you because they've taught you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you heard that a virtual assistant is going to work for a client and that client did not want to give any training, what do you think about that?
It's like rowing a boat on an ocean where you don't know where it leads, or you're just stranded on an island. You don't know where you won't go or where you'll be.
So
Something
so
like
it's
that.
pretty important,
You're
right?
lost at this.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
lost. Correct. Yeah.
you're very much lost.
Okay, great. I want to wrap this up with one final question.
Hmm.
Forget about your client, okay? Talk to the clients and the virtual assistants out there. List off what are the top 3 most important qualities that both the client and the virtual assistant need to have for this relationship and partnership to work.
Of course, I could say that both the client and the virtual assistant needs to have like respect. with each other. Like I feel respected when the clients don't micromanage every work that I did because I can do all the work. So you don't need to micromanage me. That's the very important thing for me when I'm looking for a client or when I'm having a conversation with a client because they value my opinion. Having a trust and respect with each other that the work can be done and that I deliver the work to them as well.
That's great. I heard trust, I heard, patience, I heard
Yeah.
um, communication as well in there. So those are,
Mhm.
important things, not to delegate, right? But to make sure that the proper training is in there as well, right? If you're a contractor and you're watching this and you're thinking, I need this, then go to the link in the description. My team at Virtual Construction Assistants will walk you through exactly what this looks like for your business. No pressure, no hard sell, just a conversation with one of my sales associates. If this video gave you something real today, like it, share it with another contractor who needs to hear it. And if you're serious about growing your construction business, subscribe. We're just getting started.